Are you ready to take your leadership journey to the next level? On the leadership platform TLP, we don't just talk about leadership, we live it. This year, we are bringing you cutting-edge insights, transformative tools, and real-world strategies to help you lead with confidence, purpose, and impact. This year, we have 4 seasons with 50 episodes. We will dive into themes such as leading self, leading others, and leading institutions. We bring you Leaders Are Leaders. This monthly session focuses on book reviews, discussions, encouraging all participants to read along with selected books on personal leadership and professional leadership. We also have a time with the CEO. In this segment, we dive into the stories of prominent CEOs who share their insights, lessons learned throughout their leadership journey. We also bring you extraordinary leadership stories, highlighting individuals in our societies who are doing extraordinary things. This segment inspires viewers with real-life examples of leadership in action. We will bring you some brilliant minds, courageous leaders changing the narrative of Africa. We also bring you, finally, the expert-led sessions, which cover a wide range of leadership and personal development topics, providing practical guidance and actionable strategies for personal and professional development. The leadership platform is your go-to space for personal growth, professional breakthroughs, and meaningful connections. I am Joy Bunsu-Schmutz, co-host on TLP, and I will see you every Saturday, 7 p.m. GMT, live on YouTube and Facebook.
Hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you are joining us. It's great to have you on the call today. And you know that every Saturday at 7 GMT PM, we are so happy to have us with us. So today I'll be your host. My name is Sarah Jessie Appiah, and I am joining you from Geneva, Switzerland. So go ahead and let us know from where you are joining us. We always love to see our audience and to hear from you that you are joining us from your various different places that you live in. Right. So as you do so, please remember that we do have a growth journey that starts very soon, and we will have Gideon posting it on the comment side for those who haven't signed up but would like to join the bandwagon for the next cohort that we have started in February. So thank you so much, Latte, who says good evening, and let's see others joining in. So today we have a very, very interesting subject that we'll be talking about, that is leading with authenticity and vulnerability. A great subject that I love, and we have a special guest whom I will introduce in a few minutes. But before that, let me see here, Catherine Engman is also joining us, and it says, it's lovely to see me. Catherine, same here. Even though I don't see you, I can feel you on the other side. And thank you so much for being a great partner with us. Great. So without much further ado, let me invite our guest speaker, and I will introduce him as he joins us. So Dr. Frank Obeng Essien is the resident minister for the Church of Christ Campus Ministry at the University of Cape Coast. He is a total theologian, trained at Heritage Christian University and a faculty member of the Department of Theology and Ministry. His expertise includes spiritual formation, spiritual leadership, conflict resolution, and congregational leadership. And also, he is a partner of CTL when it comes to Leave to Lead. He has been partnering with us to make sure that his students on the campus also participate. So, without much further ado, I say, Dr. Frank, good evening to you and happy to have you on our platform.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear. So before we go on, just tell us a little bit of how you have started the year. We're still in the first month of January.
Um, well, first of all, thank you, and thank you to the viewers. The year has started pretty well for me. My family is healthy. My congregants are also doing well. I'm beginning a new job as a faculty at Heritage. And
Mhm.
so things are looking up, and I'm grateful for all the things that God is doing in my life and the life of the people that I love. So that's what I can say.
Excellent. That's already is a hallmark of authenticity. So over to you to share with us what you have on the subject. Okay, and we'll come back after 20 minutes. You have about 20 minutes to do so, and our participants and audience will be putting in their questions and comments as you go along. So over to
Okay.
you, Dr. Frank.
All right. So um, beginning with vulnerability, I think the word authenticity on the slide is wrongly spelled. So viewers should. And I think it's a good way of starting, self-disclosing and not feeling bad about whatever shortfalls that may come. But the reality about leadership is that um, all leaders battle with insecurities. We all have insecurities. We are not perfect. There are deficiencies in our skills, in our characters. We are still growing. And so that is the reality that all leaders at different spheres and battle with. So, with that in mind, the thing is, what do we do? What do we do with our insecurities? What do we do with the gaps in our skill set, in our experiences, in our training and all that? What do we do? There are two options to leaders. The first option is to lead through authenticity by embracing our vulnerabilities, our um, deficiencies, our shortfalls, the gaps in our training, in our experiences, in our education. Or we can lead through insecurities. And if it's possible, I want this question posted so that our viewers would share their thoughts. If you have dealt with an insecure leader before, can you share with us some of the marks of an insecure leader? And then we can make a choice whether leading through authenticity by embracing our vulnerabilities is preferable over leading through our insecurities. And so, if you have had any experience with an insecure leader, please share your experience with us so we can make a fair judgment as to which options or which option is better to lead through embracing our vulnerability, to lead through authenticity, or to hide our challenges, to hide the gaps that exist. So what causes insecurities that affect all leaders across levels is that there is a gap between our reputation and our character. We all know, everybody knows that there is a gap between what people think he or she is and what he or she knows that he is. So people think of me as an expert in this area, but deep down in myself, I know that I have some challenges. I have some expertise, but I'm not there yet. And so that is what creates the insecurities. We wonder, how would people think of me when they discover that their impressions about me does not match my reality? And so because of that, that is where the insecurities are. Now let's define authenticity. When we talk about authentic leadership, an authentic person, what are we talking about? Now, authentic leadership involves learning how to be the best versions of ourselves, not someone else. So the thing is this: as leaders, we all have mentors, we all have people we admire, people we are looking up to. So the challenge with many leaders is that some people try to mimic other people. Some people try to dress like other people. Some people try to talk like other people. And so we are not authentic. But authentic leadership is about learning how to be the best version of yourself and not somebody else in the service of others. Authentic leadership means being strategically transparent, carefully considering the needs of the situation. So authentic leadership is about strategic transparency. And we'll talk a bit about that. There are times that you don't have to be transparent about everything. For example, I hope we don't get me, nobody gets me wrong. For example, if I'm leading a group on a path, even though I may not know the path, if I disclose that I don't know where we are going, it's likely to cause fear and panic. So in such cases, I need to be strategic about what I disclose. I need to be strategically transparent. And so authenticity involves transparency, but that kind of transparency must be strategic. We'll talk more about it as we go. And so authentic leadership also involves carefully considering the needs of a situation. And so a situation may arise. I am the leader. The question is, do I have what it takes to meet the need of the situation, or somebody else on the team may be better placed to resolve the situation? An insecure leader would not consider the needs of the situation. The insecure leader would consider his need to be perceived as in charge, to be perceived as knowledgeable. By so doing, he places his need over the needs of the entire organization. And so being authentic means that we consider the needs that has arisen in the team, and we make decisions based on that. Authentic leadership also means that we must be comfortable enough with what we know to admit what we don't know. So as a leader, if you want to be authentic, you must be comfortable admitting what you know. I know about this. I can do this. I have experience in this area. But as for that area, there is a gap in my skills and in my knowledge. This other person is better placed to help in this situation. And so that is about authentic leadership. It's about being transparent, admitting the gaps in my knowledge and ability, and putting the organization first over and above my need to be perceived as perfect and in charge. That is authentic leadership. Authentic leaders have nothing to hide. So if I said concerning a situation that I don't know about, I cannot help, what do I lose? I have nothing to hide. And so I need to be transparent. And that allows me to be a learner. Now I don't know. But can I learn to get to know so that I can supply the needs of the organization? So authentic leaders are learners. Once they don't know something, they have the capacity to admit it and take steps to cover the gap in their knowledge and their experience. Authentic leaders are curious and they ask questions. How can we get over this? What needs to be done to ensure that we place the organization in good stead? So they have nothing to hide, including their ignorance. If they are ignorant about something, they are okay disclosing that because it allows them to learn, it stirs curiosity in them, and it gives them an opportunity to ask intelligent questions. And that process leads them to cover whatever gap they have. Authentic leaders have nothing to prove because if you have been selected to lead a particular role, that proves that you have something in you. It shows your capacity. And so there's nothing more you need to prove to anybody. You have done enough to merit the current position you occupy. And so admitting certain shortfalls, certain gaps in you does not take anything away from you. Authentic leaders are not proving their leadership abilities to anybody. I am here by dint of merit. And so what do I need to prove again? And so what they do is that they only think and act differently. Admitting a gap is what makes them different, what makes them unique. They are unlike the other leaders who pretend to know when in fact they don't know, who pretend to be in charge when in fact they are shivering. And so authentic leaders have nothing to prove to anybody. When we think we have to prove something to other people, that is when we pretend, that is when we are hypocritical, that is when we put up appearances and manage impressions. The third thing about authentic leaders is that they have nothing to lose. Most leaders have had to sacrifice a lot to get to where they are now. So what do they have to lose by admitting that there is an issue and I don't have an idea as to how to fix it now? What do they have to lose? Because leaders have made sacrifices. And so is this the worst sacrifice you could make for your organization to thrive and grow? I don't think so. So authentic leaders have nothing to lose. Most of them have already given up the dream of an easy, comfortable life. And so they are fine with the loss and pain of saying that I don't know. I need to search for the answers to this issue that is at hand. So those are some of the characteristics of authentic leaders. They have nothing to hide, they have nothing to prove, and they have nothing to hide. And so all these characteristics of authentic leadership is the ability to be vulnerable. And so, how do we become authentic leaders? By being vulnerable, by embracing vulnerability. And so, now let's go ahead and define what vulnerability is. And I'm quoting this leadership expert, Brené Brown. He says, vulnerability is the emotion we experience during times of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Authentic leaders are able to embrace situations and conditions of uncertainty when they are emotionally exposed. What do we mean by emotionally exposed? You see, when you are uncertain and do not have answers to a situation, it gives rise to emotions like anxiety. Some could even go as far as being panicky. But vulnerable leaders, leaders who are able to embrace vulnerability, are able to stomach all these emotions. They may appear to not to be in control, but they are okay with that. And so that is what it means to be vulnerable. They don't have to always appear like they are in charge and that they have everything in place. They are willing and able to express the uncertainty that they are faced with. Again, vulnerability is having the courage to show up with an open heart and open mind to serve the team when there are events you cannot control. And so a vulnerable leader is able to show up. He comes to work, he comes for the meeting, even though he doesn't have the answers. He or she would not hide. He or she would not concoct stories to cover what would be obvious. And so a vulnerable leader will show up. Hey, what's the issue here? What's happening? The leader will listen to the problem, will be comfortable listening, even though he or she cannot prefer a solution. But that leader will show up. That leader will be there and will stand with the team as they ramble with the situation, as they try to find a way around it. That is a vulnerable leader, a leader that is able to embrace vulnerability. In our country, when leaders do not have answers, they hide. Some lie, some make excuses, but not a leader that is able to embrace vulnerability. Vulnerability is also coming to terms with the reality that as a leader, you may not have all the answers and solutions all the time, and be comfortable reaching out to where the solutions may be. This is a rarity in our world and in our country. In the political space, I've not spent a lot of time in the corporate world, but hardly would you hear leaders admitting that they don't have answers and exploring solutions outside of themselves and being open and transparent about it. Often the case is that they will pay somebody underground to solve the problem and create and take the credit for it. But vulnerable leaders are able to say this: I don't know. I don't know. I don't have the solution now, but I'll look for it. I'll pursue where the solution is. And that leader is able to work with others, find solutions from others, and be comfortable giving them credit for, providing a solution for it. So the point we must learn here is that vulnerability, the ability to embrace vulnerability, is the means to authenticity. If you're uncomfortable being vulnerable, you struggle with being authentic, because you'd always pretend, you'd always put on appearances, you would master in hypocrisy and use lies and deception. But if you are vulnerable, if you have the capacity to embrace your vulnerabilities, it is the pathway to becoming authentic, because you are always yourself. You have nothing to hide, you have nothing to lose, and you have nothing to prove. Now, how do we lead with authenticity and vulnerability? The first way is that be comfortable telling your story. And for leaders, not all the stories that have formed us is pristine. There are losses in our story. There are failures in our story. There are all manner of things in our story. And so when a leader is able to tell his or her story and not be afraid and not be ashamed, it is part of the process of becoming authentic and embracing vulnerability. And so that is, storytelling is an important part of leading with authenticity, and not telling somebody's story, telling the story of how you came to be where you are, and being honest and sincere about it. How do we lead with authenticity and vulnerability? You must know that people already know your flaws. So if you are tempted to pretend and project a certain perfect persona and leader, my brother, my sister, you must know that people know your flaws. One of the survival mechanisms that God gave humankind is the ability to differentiate between authentic individuals and people who are lying and who are putting up appearances. And so I work with young people. Young people are the focus of many adverts on TV. And so they have developed this survival mechanism of telling a false advert from a genuine and realistic advert, so that they know what to buy and know what to dismiss as fake and not genuine. And that capacity runs through. Many people have that capacity. If we'll be honest, when somebody is speaking, when a leader is speaking and he's lying, we can tell from the beginning. And so if you're a leader, please have this at the back of your mind, that people already know your flaws. People know your competencies, and people know your strong point. And so that should encourage you to be authentic. That should encourage you to be vulnerable, because they already know, because human problems are the same, human nature are the same. And so human problems are the same. They have flaws, and so they also know that you have flaws. And so we know that we are not perfect. So that should help you. That should encourage you. That should motivate you to lead with authenticity and vulnerability. The next is that understand, embrace, expose your weakness over time, it loses the power to be a weapon against you. If I know I am weak in math, how can you blackmail me with that knowledge? If I share, if I tell people I struggle with, say, think of something, it's not coming to me, but as part of sharing your story, share your weakness. It fails to be something valuable anybody can use against you. And so you can be authentic. People, and in my the team I work with at church, they know that I hate meetings. They know that I find it boring. They know it. And so whenever we sit in a meeting, everybody knows. And so when I'm quiet, nobody questions my competence, because they know that about me. And how did they get to know? I informed them. I have been authentic with them. I've been vulnerable with them. And so please be comfortable, so that nobody will discover your weakness and begin to blackmail you and begin to control you with it. Have yourself in your own power by sharing your weakness and self-disclosing. The next is that challenge yourself to be better. So admitting my weakness is not the end of it. I don't admit it for the sake of admission's sake. Because if a child is not reported missing, no search party is sent looking for that child. When I acknowledge my weakness, that becomes motivation for me to put an action plan in place to bridge the gap in that weakness. So leading with authenticity and vulnerability means that I must always challenge myself to grow, to improve, to develop, and to become the best version of myself. You see, when people notice your weakness and they see your growth, you become a source of motivation for other people. And so those are some of the ways by which we can lead with authenticity and vulnerability. Tell your story. It is your story. And don't delude yourself to think that you can deceive all people all the time. Know that people know your flaws. They might not have developed the courage to tell you, but they already know. People are intelligent and they can see through our mask and the facade and the appearances we put up. So be vulnerable, be authentic, and expose your weaknesses yourself. Strategic exposure, I mean. There are some people who are going to use it against you, but there are some people who are also going to help you grow. When people know what you need, that is when they provide for you. Now, I think we are ending very soon. Let's talk about benefits of authenticity and vulnerability. What are the benefits to the leader and the group and the team? What are the benefits? The first benefit is this, that when we are vulnerable, when we are authentic, it builds trust and promotes integrity. When a leader is authentic, when a leader is vulnerable, it builds trust. People know that you are honest. People know that you are sincere, and they return that favor. It builds integrity. People know that you are a whole leader. The word integrity comes from that word from which we derive this word, integers. And a person of integrity is a whole person. He's not hiding any part of himself. And team members would respond to your integrity. The next thing is that authenticity and vulnerability breeds openness and transparency. Insofar as you are open with your team, people also begin to be open to you. And so, as a leader, that gives you an entrance into the heart and mind of the people you are working with, what their struggles are, what their training needs are, and how you can build the capacity of your members. When everybody is pretending to be perfect, most of the interventions we put in place for the workers does not work, because people do not tell the team what their real needs, what their real training needs are, because they are afraid they will be found out. And so they tell lies. And management will be spending money on training programs that is not solving any problem in the organization. Why? People are not open. People are not transparent. But when one leads with authenticity and vulnerability, if it frees other people to be open and to be vulnerable and to be transparent. Authenticity and vulnerability also encourages teamwork. You see, if a leader is not pretending to be the jack of all trades but master of none, it allows other people to also pitch in. And so the skill set of all team members becomes available, becomes needed, becomes essential, because we complement each other. I know I am strong here. My other team member is strong there. That other weak team member is weaker in that area. And so what can we do? There is another team member who is strong. So his or her skill sets are utilized to bridge the gap that has opened up. And so authenticity and vulnerability allows the talent, the pool of talent available, to be put to use. There is optimal usage of the skill set of people in the team, because we are all open about our strengths and we are all open about weaknesses, and we complement each other. Another benefit of authenticity and vulnerability is that it enhances creativity and innovation. In some companies, because a leader is afraid and insecure, team members are also, they are cowed. They are unable to express themselves because that insecure leader is going to hit any thumb that sticks up. And so if a leader is insecure, he will not allow anybody to outshine him or her. Therefore, team members are afraid to be creative. They are afraid to be innovative, because it's either the leader, out of his insecurity, would take credit for it and not give anybody credit. But when a leader is authentic and vulnerable, it frees team members to be creative, because one, they are going to be recognized for it and rewarded for it. And the team leader will not be threatened by the creativity and innovation of his team members. And so that is one benefit of leading with authenticity and vulnerability. It promotes and enhances creativity and innovation. Again, it reduces shaming and blaming. We are all authentic. We are all vulnerable. And so when a mistake happens, I own up. I take responsibility for it. I don't find somebody else to blame. And I'm not ashamed, because I'm within the team. We know that we are all not perfect. Mistakes happen. What happened is that, what can we do to cover the mistake? And so it reduces the tendency for shaming and blaming, people lying and slandering other people, because there is authenticity and there is vulnerability. Again, another benefit of authenticity and vulnerability is that there is freedom for growth and accountability. People are free to grow. because people are free to acknowledge their shortfalls. If you don't admit your shortfall, there'll be no need and desire in you to grow, because you must pretend you are okay. Any attempt at growth will be seen as a deficiency. But in an authentic environment, in an environment where we embrace vulnerability, we are freed to grow. We are freed to hold other people accountable. And finally, I don't know how I am doing on time, but finally, the last benefit, this is not exhaustive, but this is all that I could think about and bring up. The last is that there is reduced use of defensive thinking. I think that's the last but one. When there is authenticity, we don't become defensive. We don't have to justify, we don't have to rationalize, we don't have to minimize, we don't have to project. When there is authenticity and vulnerability, we simply go, oh, it's true, I did it, I'm sorry, I'll make amends. And that ends it. I don't have to engage in any kind of deep cognitive excuse making. Oh, no. When there is lack of authenticity and vulnerability, it breeds a lot of lying. Many of us are liars because we don't want our weaknesses to be seen. We don't want our egos to be sort of attacked by people discovering that we are not all put together as we want them to believe. Finally, authenticity and vulnerability reduces the use of deception. I mean, lying. I don't know which, but many leaders use a lot of deception. They use a lot of manipulation, all because they fear to be authentic and they're uncomfortable to be vulnerable. So they use a lot of manipulative tactics, use their power to cow people into submission. But when we are authentic, when we are vulnerable, it reduces our tendency of using deception, lying, and cheating. We are open, we are transparent, and it takes nothing away from us. Why? Because we have nothing to hide, we have nothing to prove, and we have nothing to lose. And so we are able to say, I may be in charge, but I don't have all the solution. I may be in charge, but I don't have all the answers. I may be in charge, but I don't have, I don't know everything. Authentic leaders are able to say these things without feeling inferior. I may be in charge, but I don't know everything. And that is true. I may be in charge. I don't have all the solutions. That is true. I may be in charge, but I'm not the smartest here. And that is true. Does it take away the fact that you are the leader of the group? It doesn't. I believe that it increases your leadership currency. People begins to trust you and believe in you. So thank you for your time and attention. I hope that this has been helpful to you. And now we'll take questions if there is any. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frank. This has been really, really insightful. And we'll take a short break and come back for the questions and comments from the viewers. So Gideon, over to you.
I am winning on all fronts limitlessly.
I have made tremendous improvement at work through delegating and empowering teams.
We started with the law of intentionality, which specifically makes it clear that growth cannot just happen. You have to be intentional about your growth.
CTO Africa Leadership brings you the Grow Journey, a series of masterclasses based on John C. Maxwell's book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. In this 10-week virtual growth accelerator, you will acquire the skills to thrive and flourish as you evolve into a more impactful and fulfilled individual. You will master the art of personal and professional development as you craft and execute your customized growth plan. Limited seats available. Register now for the next cohort.
Hey there! Join the next cohort of CTO Ghana's growth journey.
The next cohort is coming on. Get involved and your life will never be the same.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gideon, and welcome back. That has been very, very insightful and very practical. Definitely, there will be questions in here which I don't see. So let me just welcome some of the people who signed in after we started off. Sophia signed in from Malam. We have Amadou Boli signing in all the way from Bamako, Mali. Bonsoir, notre ami Amadou. And then when you pose the question, Dr. Frank, as to leaders that we know who exhibit insecurity, Catherine shared that these people are fixated on titles. They do not like to be asked for explanation. They do not like to be challenged, or they take offense easily. Okay, so that was your opening question, and we had Catherine contributing. And also, insecure leaders do not take responsibility and blame, which you touched upon their staff, or they don't give their staff credit. They don't want their staff to excel just in case they take their jobs. They are divisive. Excellent. Okay, let me see what comments are coming in. Catherine is our top person who is commenting today. She says she loves Brené Brown that you cited. And Lakwe also agreed, saying, yes, Brené Brown's work is phenomenal. Excellent, excellent. Okay, I'm just going down the comments part to see whether, okay. Kweku Anani Obeng says, beautiful presentation, a commendation there. Thank you, Kweku. And then let's see whether there are any questions. I don't see any questions. So as our viewers continue to write their questions or comments, I have one question that I've noted because I wanted to give more space to our viewers to pose questions. So I just wanted you to share with us examples of how you have embraced vulnerability and has transformed your leadership effectiveness with your team.
Okay. Thank you for that great question. As I indicated, I work with young people.
Mm-hmm.
I think in that congregation, I may be the oldest person.
Mm-hmm.
And so the tendency for me to think that I know it all, I have it all, and I've been there, done that is high. But I decided to embrace vulnerability and be open and honest with these young people. And that has transformed my leadership. I've worked with them for 10 years, and we are predominantly a student congregation. And so you wouldn't expect us to achieve anything. But I tell you, we've been able to build our own auditorium. This is a huge thing. And it's not about me. It's about the innovative ideas that these young people are able to come up with based on how free they are around me. and that I will not be threatened by their innovation, I'll not be threatened by their creativity. And so, and I I know that young people can smell hypocrisy a mile away. And so that is what has helped me to connect with them for us to achieve the things that we have been able to achieve.
Wonderful, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And actually, that was what Catherine commented upon earlier on, saying that when you are authentic, there is no divisiveness and you all come together. And that was one of the points that you did mention yourself. So here,
Yes.
I see a question from Philip Quay, who says, won't your vulnerability be used against you? Can you draw the line between letting your vulnerability known to others and how to avoid it being used against you? And I will
Um,
add a question to that. Have you found
Please
yourself
let
in?
me plug in my thing so that my computer does not go off. I'm listening.
Okay, so I'll read again whilst you fix the power for your computer. It says, won't
Yes,
your
I'm back.
won't your vulnerability be used against you? Can you draw the line between letting your vulnerability known to others and how to avoid it being used against you? And I'm adding another question to it so that you can answer both at the same time. That have you found yourself in such a situation? And if so, what did you do?
Okay. So I'll start with the last question first. You see, this is my mindset that if I am being honest and you would be dishonest, it is your problem. It is not my problem. And so I have conditioned myself because I know the benefits of being vulnerable. And so I don't care about what an ignorant person will do with my vulnerability. I am interested in what I am becoming.
Mm,
And so it's a tricky thing. If you are concerned with what people will do with what the good things you do, that will be demotivation for you to do the good things you need to do.
all right.
And
So,
so
mhm.
I this is an example. Growing up, my in Ghana, na metikowa. I don't know how to say this in English.
Okay. The shape of
And
your head. You were concerned
yes,
about the shape of your head. Okay.
yes. And I knew it. And so I decided to be vulnerable about it. I decided to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it has served me well. People may poke fun at me, but because of that growth in me, it doesn't hurt me. I don't lose sleep about it. It improves my self confidence, and I am okay. So you would have to make a determination. Would you allow people to deprive you of the person you could become, or you take the initiative? I choose to do the right thing and not be bothered about other people. And before the next question, let me say something about what Catherine said, the response. I agree with her. And
Mm-hmm.
it is uncomfortable and being with a leader who is insecure. It affects productivity and creates a very toxic environment at the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the more reason why I would brace the odds and become an authentic leader so that that freedom will be created for growth and maturity and productivity.
Awesome, awesome. And actually, that is what a comment Lakwe has made, saying vulnerability and authenticity allow for freedom of self, and the people who matter in our growth journey will be there to hold us up. So that has been beautifully summed up by Lakwe. Lakwe, thank you for that
Yes.
separate.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Excellent. So I don't see any questions. I don't know whether Uncle Sam is here with us. Uncle Sam, if you are here, join us. If not, I have a comment from Alive and Well with Dr. Tess. Dr. says, good to have you with us, saying, always a pleasure being here from Abuja, all the way from Abuja. We love seeing you on the call, Dr. Tess. So, Uncle Sam, over to you since you've joined us. Let's see what questions you have for Dr. Frank.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you, Doc, for that presentation. And I'm observing all the great comments from Catherine and Lacque and so on. Now, this is a very important thing, but there is also um, there is a challenge where, I mean, let me just cite an example of one of my leaders, and this was one of the great leaders of one of the organizations I worked, and he did a lot of contribution to the organization. Now, he used to be very hard, I mean, on people from the outside, and people were afraid. In fact, people were kind of afraid of him, in quote. And my office used to be the place where a lot of people came to cry, because by the time they came down from his office, he has beaten you up, and and a lot of people were even afraid to go to him when they have something they have to go and discuss. But because of that, people did what he wanted them to do, and they were just alert. I was close to him, and he was able to open. I mean, one day there was something, and I had to go to him and try to, and I did this for my bosses, try to, coax him up to if you like, mellow, to tone down some of the. And he says, Sam, you know me, I'm really soft inside. And if I don't put on this facade, I do this thing, I pretend to be hard. Not that I'm hard, but I pretend to be hard, because if I don't, people will just take advantage of me. And this African people, they don't want to do the work. They will just coax around. So I had to be hard. Now, I can say that he got results, but eventually what happened was that there was a kind of a rebellion, which eventually pushed him out. When he had great vision and so forth, eventually pushed him out at a critical point when the strategy was to be implemented. I would say that, I mean, after he was pushed out, later on the board realized that actually they had been deceived by the rebels, So they had to bring him back after 3 years, and then he took it from there. And when he came back, and I was still there. So I mean, and and going forward, he would tell me, Sam, now I've grown. I don't do things the way I used to do again. When I was here the first time, I was younger, but I've learned and I've grown. And he was totally different. He was more accommodating, more, I'm sharing this to show that sometimes leaders think that, if I have to be, hard faced, like the Ghana people will say, "Bonyo," face, then people will be afraid of me, and they want to convey people to be afraid of them. You can go for a while, but after a while, that will not work, because people then don't. They're human beings, and you can't treat them that way. They know you're human, and you're not, like you said, you're not 100%, and you put such a strict, So I just wanted to share that. But I also want to share another story of another of my leaders. This, I used to work directly with him when I joined the company. And apparently, he was threatened by me because I come from the stock exchange and I could structure some transactions and so on. The CEO came and said I needed an Anglophone lawyer, and he was Francophone, and there was some obvious shortcomings in his skills in certain areas where the CEO wanted to go, which I came in. Now, instead of working together, he decided that no, I'm going to take his job. And so he kept so many things away from me, and he conveyed, and that time, and to convey to the boss that I don't understand French. In fact, he was the only one who thought I didn't understand French in the office, because everybody knew I was doing my best. I could read, I could understand the language and work in it. But because he didn't want me to be involved, so there's so many things he kept away from me. Unfortunately for him and for the organization, he had some sickness or something, and without announcement, he just passed away. And by the time he passed away, and the boss began asking, because we were just the two of us in the department, and he's passed away, and he asked for this, and I said, I don't know of this, I don't know of that, I don't know of that. So now, the boss had to call from our secretary to bring all the files, and I had to take everything from beginning, and there's a lot of work that had to go in. That affects the organizational efficiency. So it's just because one person feels threatened by another, instead of working together as a team and using the skills. And John Maxwell will tell you that according to the 21 laws of leadership, which shows the 21 competencies that you need as a leader, and he will tell you as one human being, you cannot be competent in all the 21 areas.
Yeah.
True. So there's some areas that you cannot be competent in, and you have to be people. You have to get somebody else to do that. But if you want to show that, look, I'm the boss, so I know everything I have to do. No, I mean, my team knows that I am a BBC. Recently, that's born before computers. My skills in tech is very, very low. Recently, I acquired the new one, which is GBC, which is gone before computers. In some areas, I'm totally, I cannot be resurrected because I'm just dead in those areas. But the team knows, and I don't pretend to know. I will just say, guys, do it. Get me my PowerPoints, get me this, and as they're doing it, I'm learning, as you said, and then slowly they will help you to grow. So I was just sharing these things to reinforce the good presentation that you have made. That as leaders, you're not leading for yourself. The leadership is not for you. But when the leadership becomes something about you, then there is a need to protect you from the people. That's when then you begin to do all the like they say, the second-hand cars, when you have to spray all the damaged areas, straighten up and cover it, then as if it's new. Exactly. So you then begin to paint some areas, and eventually when you have painted certain areas of the car, you know that when there's a little scratch, my car was blue, some color I didn't want, I changed it to a new color, and when the trotro guys come and scratch my car, then the old color shows up. And that is what happens to us in terms of our character. Character cannot hide. Okay?
Yes, and can I piggyback on what you just said?
Yes, please.
Many people are uncomfortable working in government agencies because there are these fears that somebody will juju you, somebody will kill you, somebody will do this. I think it all comes from this lack of ability to be vulnerable and to be authentic.
Yeah.
And so it has ramifications for all individuals who are in the workspace. If all of us were comfortable to embrace vulnerability and authenticity, it is going to reduce some of the um, unverbalized situations that exist in the workplace, that we attack one another because of fear of whatever. And so I'm hoping that many people will begin to embrace some of these things. It may be countercultural and counterintuitive. We are not a people that are known for some of these things, but I think going forward, it will be for our own good. We can work in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I have a counter question here for both of you, Uncle Sam and Dr. Frank. The thing is that, okay, we are leaders, we are leading. What about the flip side where you have a leader where you may need to counter mentor to become vulnerable? What is the
Mhm.
best way to go about it? Uncle Sam did mention that when he was with this boss, people came crying to him, but he had a way of really getting to the boss. How can we, if we are not the leaders and followers, how can we help our leaders to be vulnerable?
Well, in terms of the followers, and let me give you an example. And This is one of my very first CEOs. In fact, I was with him yesterday. He's now very old, and we had a good time together. But when I started work, this CEO was very good. He had great vision for the organization, but he had this side where at the boardroom and every level, when he has to present something and people oppose it, you just go ballistic, and he can use all sort of intimidatory approaches to just bamboozle people, to silence people, even some directors. He was a CEO. And I remember once we had a proposal, and the governor of the central bank was then our regulator. Went to see the governor, and as we tried to bring these ideas on how to regulate the market and do certain things, the governor started, throwing some darts into the ideas. Then my boss went ballistic. The same, kind of approach. Try to, and then governor, who is the boss at that time, he was the regulator. He says, "Okay, Mister, if you think that you can go and run this without my input, you can go ahead." Now, at that point, we're trying to get the buy-in of the regulator. But because of this approach, the whole thing was now going to be messed up. Well, we left, and that day I decided that I have to go and help my boss, because in the corridors, people are talking about it. Like Frank says, people know they can see your dysfunction because that's what we are. As leaders, we have our areas of dysfunction, and and it's not helping the organization. And they are talking about it in the corridors, but nobody dares. Who will bail the cat? And like say in Africa, the chief's cloth has taken something something. Who is going to tell the chief that your cloth has taken something something? You see what I mean? So I went to him. I started off from all the great things he's doing, all the vision he has, and so on and so forth. And then from that angle, brought into perspective some of the challenges I thought he was having in terms of his approach and the anger level and all those things that didn't help. And I can tell you, he was And when I was going, I was actually afraid. I didn't know what what his reaction was going to be. But I was pleasantly surprised. He was like, and he used to call me lawyer, lawyer. So is that how I behave? Is that how people see me? And I said, well, that is how it goes through. And he thanked me, thanked me, thanked me. In fact, that when I left the organization, the person he suspected, poached me. He didn't talk to the person for several, several months and years. Happened to be his good friend, and he just appreciated that because he says nobody has ever told him that this was the situation. So sometimes we are thinking that the leader is aware, but this is his blind spot.
Yeah.
And we all have blind spots as leaders. And if you don't get feedback, then that is going to be big problem. So to help to lead up, if you like, and everybody can lead up. To lead up, this is what you can do. And I've done that I can cite several examples because I've worked with several CEOs, so I know to do that to help them. And so I appreciate that. And I will open up to my people and say, what do you think about me? And people would sometimes in our context, they will not tell you the total truth, but sometimes they will give you some hints. And then if you're wise, you'll pick it from there. So the two terms I just want to just throw a bit more light on, which is reputation and character. Now, your reputation is what, like you explained, is what people see to you to be. But your character is who you truly are. And a lot of the time, we are spending the time working on our reputation so that people will see us the way this is it, you know. But the truth is that the character is what eventually emerges. And many of the leaders who we read about who have risen and fallen, we know that they fell on the basis of character flaws. And those character flaws, sometimes they spend years to cover them up until they blew up into their faces. So yeah, those are my little points to
Thank you.
the brilliant presentation that Prof has already given us.
Thank you, Sam. I can see our time is really getting to the end. So what I'll do is I'll quickly just read something that Catherine said is vulnerability is strength and people respect you more. It depends on how confident you are in your vulnerability. Okay, so that really sums it very well. And I have two last comments. One from Martin Atiaku Frando, who says, great lesson there, being authentic, very necessary. So much appreciation from the audience. And Livingston Zeto says, it takes humility to embrace vulnerability and be authentic. So thank you all for your contributing comments and commendations. So here, I think I'll leave the floor to Dr. Frank to give us his pattern shots, and we'll call it a day. Over to you, Dr. Frank. What are your final closing pattern words for us?
Um, I just want to encourage our listeners and leaders wherever they find themselves. Um, Many people have fears about being vulnerable and being authentic. I tell you, if you began this journey, you will discover that your fears are what they are. They are fears. They are false realities appearing real. And that there are more benefits to be derived from being vulnerable than hiding, pretending, and putting up appearances. And so I would encourage people to taste and see, to try this and see, and imagine the kind of impact that being vulnerable and being authentic would allow them to have in the lives of people. When a leader learns to be vulnerable, people reciprocate that and they are vulnerable to them. And that gives you a good position to invest and to impact and to influence people, to make long-lasting changes and transformation in the life of people. Leadership is about people. And so vulnerability is the gateway into the hearts and minds of people. People begin to trust you. People begin to listen to you because they see you to be genuine. They see you to share their common humanity. So please get over your fears and begin to embrace faith in what that behavior and that orientation can bring about in your organization and in the lives of the people you serve and interact with. So that's my parting comment. Thank you all for your time and your attention and contribution.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frank. I just love what you said. Vulnerability and authenticity is the gateway into the hearts and minds of the people that you lead. And with that, we'll wrap up. Yes.
Can I say a big thank you to my congregation, the Church of Christ Campus Ministry at UCC. Those young people have loved me, they have cared for me, and they have allowed me to be vulnerable and to be authentic. And I can never appreciate them enough. I want them to know that I love them back, and I thank them for how they have helped me grow spiritually and emotionally.
Thank you so much. And to your young people as well for having grown you, for you to be able to share this with us today. We say thank you to them. So we'll sign off today's session by knowing that, yes, you may not be able to be authentic and vulnerable. However, it is a learned skill set that as leaders, we can always grow with a story that Uncle Sam even shared with us. So, you have CTL. This program is being aired and is recorded on our YouTube channel, which you can always go back and learn more and really pinpoint the areas that you want to grow and reach out to us if you need our help to really pivot to become an authentic and vulnerable leader. So with this, we sign off today's session saying thank you for your support every week that you sign up to listen to us and to contribute. Until we come your way next week, where I think we are going to have the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. This is CTL, the leadership platform, signing off. And if you don't have the book, go to our website. Under our resources, there is a PDF copy over there. Download it and read. And we will all come back and work on that with Uncle Sam leading us next week with the summary of the book and the lessons to help us grow in our leadership. It's been great having you. So good night and see you next week. Bye-bye.
I am winning on all fronts limitlessly.
I have made tremendous improvement at work through delegating and empowering teams.
We started with the law of intentionality, which specifically makes it clear that growth cannot just happen. You have to be intentional about your growth.
CTL Africa Leadership brings you the Grow Journey, a series of masterclasses based on John C. Maxwell's book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. In this 10-week virtual growth accelerator, you will acquire the skills to thrive and flourish as you evolve into a more impactful and fulfilled individual. You will master the art of personal and professional development as you craft and execute your customized growth plan. Limited seats available. Register now for the next cohort.
Hey there, join the next cohort of CTL Ghana's growth journey.
The next cohort is coming on. Get involved and your life will never